Howdy, guys. Welcome to night 42 of Big Brother All-Stars. This is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. 42, the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. There's still a lot of questions going on inside the Big Brother house, so let's get right to it. First of all, as a refresher, yesterday we did have the veto ceremony. There's a lot of pressure on Davon not to use the veto, but she used it. She got up at the veto ceremony, apparently gave a speech that some of the house guests felt was a little too happy, too cheerful. She pulled Kevin off the block, and Danny at that point stood up as a replacement nominee. She put Ian on the block. So Thursday night, it's going to be a vote between Ian and Tyler. One of those two will be maybe not going home. We don't know if there's going to be a battle back for post-jury or not, but at least one of them will be leaving the house right now. So that was kind of the theme this evening of people adjusting to the idea that those two are on the block and starting to campaign for different people and trying to position themselves for the weeks going forward. So a lot of conversations. Let's get right into it. First of all, in the photo room, Kevin and Ian are talking to each other. Kevin is telling Ian, saying, yeah, I know you're on the block, but I think you're in a pretty good spot because you're tight with Nicole, and Nicole is tight with Cody and Danny. Well, Kevin, kind of forgetting that Cody may be a little jealous of that relationship between Ian and Nicole, and that Nicole is getting uber pressure from everyone else within the group, and that Tyler is a member of the committee, and so he's got 5 other people that are pushing to keep Tyler alive. So Kevin forgot a few things, but I understand the intent. But yeah, saying, I think you're good, Ian. We're going to discover by the end of the overnight feeds tonight that people are thinking maybe that's not so much the case. All right, another little discussion. This is Ian is talking to Kevin, or a continuing conversation. Ian's saying, it's strange that Memphis didn't go up on the block, that Danny picked me over Memphis. That tells me there's stuff going on that I just don't know about. You're right, Ian, and it's called the committee. And we as viewers know about all these alliances, but they have a feel for the committee, but the idea that Memphis is still part of it doesn't seem to really be on people's radars as much. So yes, that's why Memphis did not go up, and you did, Ian, in this situation. Kevin is saying, it's kind of strange that there was so much pressure to keep me on the block. If the plan is just to send Tyler out at the end of the day anyway, why not just keep me on the block? Why were they trying so hard? Why is that, Kevin? Kevin also thinks it's very strange that everyone came up to him the second he was nominated, came up and said, oh, you're good. You're good. No problem at all. He said they didn't even do that when I was on the block against Janelle, I think. He said they came up immediately. That just seems a little fishy. Yes, indeed. He says, I think there actually may be a large alliance that's protecting Tyler, and that's why they're so happy and telling us all this stuff. That you are correct, Kevin. Yes, indeed. Kevin also mentions, he says, the other thing too, it just doesn't make sense for Danny to suddenly be taking this big shot at Tyler. That's not the way she's played the game. She's played it conservatively. This would be a big shot. It just isn't Danny's style of play. So Danny and Ian are comparing notes, and they're realizing there's something more going on, and they will continue to discover that as we go through the evening. Meanwhile, in the backyard, David and Kevin are talking. Kevin's moving all around the house. He's the information seeker tonight, one of them. David and Kevin are in the backyard. David tells Kevin, says, look, if I'm an HO, I'm a have-not. I've got to pick someone new for next week. I think I'm probably going to pick Memphis as my have-not. All right, now, it's no big surprise. David and Memphis have had a beef for a while, so it's no surprise that David is looking at Memphis to choose. But here's the thing. He tried it earlier, or was going to do it, and Memphis said, you do that, and I'm going to put you right back on, whatever. You do what you want to do, and David backed off. Doesn't sound like David wants to back off this time. David has won this one power. He's starting to get more confident. He's starting to be willing to take more risk and play the game. So I think David's getting a little more confidence about him, and it shows in the way that he's now considering putting Memphis on the block and saying, there you go, Memphis. Another little conversation, just a little point between these two I thought was very interesting to bring up, or just fun. David says, Kevin, throughout this game, they haven't thought of me as a smart player. Kevin looks at him and says, nah, at this point, you're going to have to ride with your secret. All right, that's what he got. In the backyard, Christmas and Memphis are talking. They are agreeing that, hey, when it comes down to the final 6, Nicole is going to be the easiest of the 6 in the commission to get rid of because she's a past winner. It's an easy justification to throw her out. But then Memphis says, yeah, but on the other hand, that may be a good reason for some people to drag her along a little bit further because she may be easier to beat in a final 2 also. So they're talking. The thing about this, they're starting to talk about the final 6. Yeah, are they getting a little ahead of themselves? Yeah, I hope so. But they're starting to think about their positions within the final 6. And that tells me we're starting to see some cracks form. We're starting to see people thinking about who do I really trust within the group and who I don't. So it's going to keep getting better. I think it absolutely is. All right, in the HOH room, Cody, Danny, Cole are all talking. They're talking about how are we going to explain to Davon when suddenly Ian goes home and Tyler stays. As much as we said we're just shooting for Tyler, just you don't need to use your veto because Tyler's going home. Cody says, look, I think I'm just going to be direct. I'm just going to say we decided at the last minute to vote out Ian. It's just the way it is. Danny says, can we act shocked? Can we act completely surprised? After he leaves, well, they talk about Danny and Nicole both say, we need to blindside Ian. Don't tell him he's going home. Let's just let him be surprised and we can act surprised as well. Cody leaves, and at that point, Danny starts talking. She says, you know, I'm scared that this is going to get back to Day and other people that we knew about it. That we knew about the blind side. And Nicole starts saying, you know, I think I kind of want to just tell Davon the truth that Ian's going to go home and that we knew about it. It's just a change of plans and all of that. So I'm starting to get a little nervous about how Davon might respond and how it's going to affect their position in the game. In the HOH, Nicole, Danny are talking. Nicole and Danny spent a lot of time talking last night, this morning. Nicole is saying that, she's saying, look, my hands are tired. I'm tired. Her hands are tied. She says, I want to save Ian, but you know, my hands are tied. There's not much I can do right now. She says, at this point in time, I just need to start saving face with Davon and make sure that she doesn't think that I'm the one behind wanting to send Ian out the door. She says that she's already told Tyler that saving him this week is going to show just how loyal she is to him because voting out Ian is like voting out her brother. She hopes that Tyler recognizes that. She's frustrated because she says, Davon doesn't care how we feel. She knows we didn't want her to use a veto, and she did so anyways. Yeah, she just doesn't care about us. It's very ironic coming from Nicole, considering that the two of them just yesterday were talking about how they were going to lie to Davon and trick her into not using her veto. So, all right, but all right, you talk about that, Nicole. Nicole now says, well, this is my justification to go after Davon. If she doesn't care what we think, then go after her, right? Christmas comes in, joins the conversation, says, hey, here's the deal. When we do this HOH on Thursday, if it looks like the comps are going, the HOH is going my way, the competition, and Nicole, you're still up there and I have a way to do it, I'm going to throw the comp to you. I'm going to let you get a little blood on your hands this week as HOH, but also it's going to allow the guys to not look at you as funny for not winning anything. You'll have won an HOH as well, so we'll all be equal and everything. So I'm going to throw it to you if I get the chance to do it. Danny is talking. She thinks that she and Nicole will go up if Davon wins HOH. Very possible. Christmas is saying that, hey, if Kevin wins HOH, the two of y'all are going up also. Either one of y'all two are probably going to go up. Christmas is also saying that Ian still thinks he's just a pawn. He came and campaigned to her. She promised him her vote. Danny says she promised Ian that she would break the tie if it did come down to a tie. So they're still thinking that Ian is not aware and is going to get blindsided with this whole deal. HOH room, Danny and Ian are talking. Ian wants to know, Danny, why was I nominated? Why did you pick me? Danny says, well, I picked you because I thought I was trying to pick who I thought would stay versus Tyler. Everyone else was a bigger threat compared to Tyler, but Ian, I felt like you weren't considered as big a threat, so it makes it easier to convince everyone to get Tyler out the door. Ian says, well, that's fine, but I'm already getting a little pushback. As much as y'all say I'm safe, I'm already getting pushback from people saying that I'm a previous winner, that I'm Nicole's untouchable, things like that. And Danny says, who told you that? And he says, well, Kevin did. So in the backyard, Memphis and Cody are talking. Cody is worried about blindsiding Davon again, continuing that conversation. Worried about blindsiding Davon. Memphis says, I don't care, whatever. Right? She's not going to be on our side anyway. He says, I'll just tell Davon that Tyler was a bigger threat than Kevin, so we're going to vote. We're going to vote Tyler out. But now Ian's on the block, and Ian is a much bigger threat because he's already won it. So we're going to send Ian home instead. So because you did the nominations differently, that's why we changed them. All right, in the backyard, Enzo and Kevin. both are saying that they're kind of 50-50 on the vote. They just don't know which way they're going to go in terms of Tyler versus Ian. In the bathroom, Danny and Nicole are talking to each other. Danny and Nicole are talking to each other. Danny says, Nicole, Ian is freaking out. He told me, no one who votes Ian out is going to get his jury vote. He's going to hold it against him. He's going to be a bitter juror. Nicole is saying, we should have tried harder to keep Kevin on the block. She just seems to have forgotten that the beauty of Big Brother, you don't always have control, and sometimes you just don't get everything you want. Nicole wants to give Ian a vote. That sounds bad, but she wants to give him a sympathy vote. And then Danny is saying, you can't do that. First of all, Danny thinks she's doing it just to get a jury vote from Ian. But also, Nicole says, no, that's not it. I'm doing it for my moral compass. Well, Danny is worried that if Nicole casts a vote for Ian to stay, it could lead to a tie vote, make Danny be the deciding vote, get more blood on her hands. He says, you can't do that, Nicole. You just can't do it. Nicole is worried that also says, hey, Davon and you have gotten very close. And Danny is saying, well, yeah, Davon never screwed me over, and Tyler did. At that point, Nicole says, well, has Davon ever said anything bad about you, Danny? Maybe you don't know. So we're still seeing a little friction between these two, even though they're trying to work together. They're spending a lot of time together. In the backyard, Christmas and Enzo. Christmas is telling Enzo she's been working with Memphis more and more. She says that way if someone comes for me, they'll go after Memphis as well instead of you because they're going to think that Memphis and I are tighter. Smart idea, Christmas, to explain to Enzo why you're spending so much time with Memphis without revealing that y'all are both part of the committee. Enzo is upset, says, I was a renom option and Danny never even told me. I'm a little upset about that. Christmas says it was either you or me or Memphis. We were the three possibilities. And they're both upset. They're saying, obviously, we're the three disposable people. This should tell them something, right, about their position within the committee and within that bigger alliance. Enzo saying he doesn't trust Danny now to give him any info. In the bathroom, Tyler and Danny are talking. Danny's telling Tyler that she asked Davon about bringing Nicole into the Slick Six since Bailey is gone. I haven't even heard that last name for a little while. He said, it's not real. I'm just trying to placate Davon a little bit. In the comic room, Nicole and Christmas are talking. Apparently, Kevin said that Ian might not get his vote because Ian is so close to Nicole. This upsets Nicole, who says, hey, Davon was obviously lying when she said that Kevin wouldn't go after me based on what Kevin's telling Ian. And Nicole's questioning, why do people do things that keep me from being able to trust them? All right, Nicole, there's only 200 mirrors in this house, and obviously you haven't looked into a single one because you need to look in a mirror here, my friend. All right, in the backyard, Enzo and David are talking. Enzo is saying that Ian has won before. Let him go. And let Tyler go after Danny instead. And Enzo is also saying that if Danny does go, it cripples that big alliance. And he also is telling David, saying, hey, I'll throw the HOH to you if it comes down to it, and I can do it. I'll let you go ahead and do what you want to do, take your shot. Ian joins. Enzo's talking about an earlier conversation with Christmas where she was listing all the reasons to vote out Ian. Ian's starting to get a feel now for where this thing is headed. Enzo warns them that Christmas and Memphis have something going on. Don't know what it is, but they're a lot tighter than y'all think, guys. And Kevin is warning Ian, says, you're being used, Ian. That's just all there is to it. In the HOH room, Danny and Nicole are talking. Nicole says Ian has a strong feeling he is going home. Nicole is crying. She's saying she's still going to campaign for him. But Danny's saying, look, the committee wants Tyler to stay. That's all it is, Nicole. Nicole says, it hurts my game to be the only winner left. I just don't want to have to compete with Tyler. And Nicole thinks that they're being played. I kind of think so too, Nicole. I think the guys are playing both of y'all a little bit. Danny is saying that they will never convince Christmas because Christmas and Tyler have a final too, so don't even bother trying to convince Christmas to keep Ian on this vote. In the backyard, Enzo, Davon, and Kevin are talking. Enzo says that Christmas is leaning towards voting out Ian, and Davon says, well, I saw Christmas and Nicole talking on the bed, and Kevin is saying something feels off. It's something not going on quite right. They don't know what Cody's going to do, feeling weird about these others. Enzo and Kevin both think that Tyler's target's going to be Danny. Davon is looking very convinced that Danny's their primary target. She's not buying it. Enzo is saying that Tyler's up to something with Danny, Memphis, and Christmas. All right, so that's it, guys. We finished up. Again, it's going to be either Tyler or Ian going home on Thursday. Ian at this point thinks that he is the target, and he probably is unless something changes. We'll find out. I'll see y'all in 24 hours. SKD 143.